Good morning, Your Honor. My name is Firefighter Brian Cofield. I'm here on behalf of the judicial team to speak in regard to the case involving a fire that occurred at 123 South Myrtle in the city of Monrovia at approximately 1:17 p.m. It states in the case that a fire broke out. Crews began to extinguish the fire and put water on the fire and conducted a primary and secondary search of the building. And while they were doing this, the family arrived home, and search and rescue attempts were then ceased due to the family saying that nobody was inside. Shortly thereafter, there was another fire that broke out down the street that was involved with multiple people trapped inside. So the fire department had to leave the location and to go effect a rescue at that location. Firefighter investigator for our arson task force team, number 123, arrived on scene at approximately 30 minutes after the fire had occurred, which was at 1:17. The fire investigator made entry into the premise and noticed that there were multiple old items within the home that appeared to have looked staged. Staged meaning somebody had put older, broken down furniture, TVs inside of the residence to, in fact, make it look like somebody had been living there with their newer items inside the house. Upon inspection, as the investigator was walking in plain view, I might add, plain view, we'll talk about that in just a moment, but in plain view, there was a incendiary device that was melted behind the TV that appeared to have had some type of chemical or flame creating substance on that device. As the homeowners arrived, they were met with the attorney for the homeowners and told our fire investigator that they no longer want that person on the premise and that their Fourth Amendment rights are being questioned at that point, that Fourth Amendment was broken by the investigator. So before we get into this case, I just want you to know that everything's being recorded on our end, and thank you, Honor, for listening to this case. Now, I want to bring up a great fact. Michigan versus Tyler. This is a case that came out of Michigan. It was seen by the U.S. Supreme Court in 1978. Just a quick little brief a thing that happened with that. And this was decided on May 31st, 1978. So the actual case, story comes from 1970, which was January 21st, where a fire broke out in a large furniture store. And inside, when the fire department was doing their search after the flames were extinguished, they noticed that there was a flammable liquid inside. Now, this was in plain view, meaning there was no digging, there was no extra searching for evidence. The evidence was right there. It was flammable containers that looked very suspicious, and these items were collected as evidence. Thus, there was no need for a Fourth Amendment search warrant to enter. Now, once the evidence is collected and is now brought out of that structure and placed with the police department or the fire investigation team into evidence, now to return back into that building, once you've left, you now no longer own the keys to that building. You now must have to get a Fourth Amendment search warrant signed by the magistrate and have that signed and notified also to the other party of the owners of that building to be able to re-enter to search for evidence. And on that affidavit, it needs to show what you're being searched, what you're going to search for, why, and for what cause, why you will be there, and for a predetermined amount of time, how long this should take. That way, you're following the Fourth Amendment. It's reasonable search, reasonable seizure. So now, with our case, once the flames were extinguished and now a fire investigator goes in, walking around, they need to find what is known as the cause and the origin. Cause and origin could be multiple things. It can be electrical, it could be malfunctioning stove equipment, food on the stove, fireplaces, but also arson, which could be flammable gases, chemicals, liquids. Different types of incendiary devices can be located inside of a structure. So that's what the fire investigators going to look for. They're looking for burn patterns. They're looking where the most heat was focused within that house or structure, and to determine preliminary where that fire may have started at the closest possible pinpoint location. So in the case of the family members coming back with an attorney to let the investigator know that their Fourth Amendment rights have been violated, this, in fact, is not true due to the fact that Michigan versus Tyler states. This is going to be subsection B, number 2. A burning building which clearly presents an exigency of sufficient proportions to render a warrantless entry reasonable, and once in the building to extinguish a blaze, and for a reasonable time after being when that investigator went in to that building, firefighters may seize evidence of arson that is in plain view, and to investigate that cause of the fire. Thus, no Fourth Amendment violations were committed by the firemen and investigators' entry to extinguish the blaze and to look at the cause. During that cause and origin search, that is when the incendiary device was found. Also, the broken down furniture, the broken TV, and the appearance of being staged. Now, that investigator can take photographs, collect evidence, then book that evidence in, and it will hold up in this court due to the fact that no Fourth Amendment rights were violated and all evidence is of good nature. And I'd like to rest my case, Your Honor. Thank you very much.